Unfortunately, AHS wasn't able to participate in the online debate as planned. However, our incredible MacRob debaters took on each other in a debate recorded through Zoom.
With a spectacular showcase of skills and knowledge, both teams put up an amazing competition. The topic for this debate was Valentine's Day should not be celebrated. MacRob is affirmative and MacRob was also negative.
So hi guys, this is the Adelaide replacement debate where we're having two lovely MacRob teams debate, and today's topic is should we celebrate Valentine's Day? And it's 5 to 6 minute speeches. I will be knocking at one knock at 5 minutes, two knocks at 5:30, and continuous knocking at 6 minutes. And I would like to bring forth the first affirmative speaker. Thank you.
Valentine's Day. The stereotypical boxes of chocolates, flowers, and presents stacked up in endless piles, all to celebrate a single day of love for romantic couples. But what constitutes this day of love? Why has it been packaged into a love heart-shaped box, tied with a ribbon, only to be delivered on a single day of the year? It begs the question, why do we even celebrate an event as superfluous as Valentine's Day? Offering up a definition, the affirmative team defines Valentine's Day as the 14th of February each year as a day to celebrate love between romantic couples throughout the world that stems from Christian martyrs, including the most famous, Saint Valentine. As the first speaker of the affirmative team, I will elucidate the very ironies presented in the commercialization and the expectations put forth by Valentine's Day that results in pernicious harm towards relationships. And I will also be touching upon some environmental factors that stem from Valentine's Day. Our second speaker will divulge into the past to justify why the dark origins of Valentine's Day is not something that should be celebrated, and why the exclusivity of Valentine's in our present day creates more damage towards individuals because of the notion that happiness is something that is dependent on another person. On to my substantive, Valentine's. It's the one day to show your love. Except it's not. Valentine's Day should simply be another day for couples. Every single day should be a day to celebrate your significant other. By placing Valentine's Day on a pedestal, by being the one day that should be held above others in terms of a relationship, it is essentially saying that every other day is only ordinary. The expectations rise with each year, with the grand idea that each Valentine should be greater and more extravagant than the one before. The truth is, no one will ever say that their Valentine with their partner was anything less than extraordinary, for fear of how others will perceive their relationship. The build-up towards an idyllic day to spend with your loved ones sets unrealistic expectations about relationships, specifically those presented by the media. The romanticized representation of relationships fails to acknowledge that relationships are not all luxurious roses and fluffy teddy bears. The very concept of relationships needing to be perfect, specifically on this day, drives couples further apart than together when they realize the expectations they had built inside their mind were not fulfilled. We are all too familiar with the detriments of placing unrealistic expectations onto Valentine's, and similarly the roles placed within relationships. It is all too commonly seen that the man of a relationship is expected to make the first move in dates, gifts, and declarations of love. This only furthers the belief of gender stereotypes and what each person in a relationship is supposed to do. This outlook on stereotypes leads to a completely false idea on how people should act and leads to issues like toxic masculinity and femininity in relationships. In reality, there is no one way to define love or how love should look like in a relationship, which is exactly why Valentine's Day should not be something to be celebrated because of the falsification it creates. Furthermore, the commercialization of love that comes around each year during Valentine's presents the very irony of love itself. Since when was love measured in flowers and chocolates? The ideology spread by the profit-oriented aspect of Valentine's insinuates that love can only exist with displays of material affection. This paints a picture towards couples that only if they show their love through indulgent gifts and acts can they be in love. This idea of Valentine's that stipulates that one should go above and beyond for their significant other creates a falsehood for what healthy relationships are, making those whose partners don't hit a certain criteria in the form of gifts seem unworthy or inferior. Relationships are not built off money, flowers, and the numbers of chocolates you can get your partner. Connections and the genuine feelings you have for another person is what's supposed to matter. But the widespread commercialization of Valentine's now takes away from these wholehearted reasons for love to be celebrated at all on this day. Not only does the commercialized version of Valentine's propagate the view that love should be displayed through materialistic actions, but the environmental impact from a single day of Valentine's per year is abominable. Countless roses, chocolates, and other gift-related items are bought and tossed all within the span of 24 hours. It takes 10 liters of water to grow each and every rose. Millions of roses are grown, cut, and thrown out once they start to wilt, emitting thousands of metric tons of carbon into the atmosphere, mostly to follow the trend of what people feel like they are obligated to do during Valentine's. But roses are not the only culprit. Chocolates, cards, stuffed animals, these are all inevitably discarded to fill up the growing piles of trash in landfills. For each gift, there is a list of environmental factors impacted, from the production-based greenhouse emissions to the resulting pieces of trash polluting the environment. There's nothing quite like saying I love you, then bringing back a bag of trash to be thrown out as the aftermath of gifts. The astronomical amount of waste presented by the commercialization of Valentine's Day that is used to show an untrue interpretation of love makes it something that shouldn't be celebrated at all. Simply put, these commercialized and immaculate ideals of love caused by Valentine's Day obscures relationships and how love should be represented. Valentine's isn't worth celebrating if the love that we're supposed to celebrate doesn't actually bring forth a realistic idea of love in relationships.
Thank you. That was 5 minutes and 50 seconds. I would like to thank the first affirmative and bring the the first negative speaker from the opposition.
World of suffering, we have very few glimmers of hope. Love is one of these glimmers. Blaise Pascal once said, "The heart which reason knows nothing. One of these reasons is love." The affirmative team wants us to live in a world without glimmers of hope. However, we believe that these glimmers make this world bearable. We need to control the little good that we have and hold it tight. Today, we are going to prove to you that we should celebrate Valentine's Day. We believe that there is one key flaw with the definition presented by the affirmative team. Valentine's Day, as celebrated in this day and age, is not just about romantic relationships. It's about all kinds of relationships and all kinds of love. As I will continue to explain. Today, I will be describing to you what a world without Valentine's Day would look like and the suffering that would ensue. Our second speaker will be providing you with a stakeholder analysis. Before I present my substantive, I will first rebut some of the fallacious arguments shown by the affirmative team. Firstly, they have tried to paint Valentine's Day as a frivolous holiday just for romantic couples. However, as it's celebrated in this world right now, it is not just for romantic couples. It's about love. Love isn't just exclusive to romantic couples. Love is for everyone. Secondly, they talked about the commercialization of Valentine's Day. However, this commercialization stimulates the economy and pumps more money into the economy, which in the long run benefits us all, as our second speaker will tell you about. Finally, they talked about how gifts create waste. But what about birthday presents or anniversary gifts or Mother's Day and Father's Day? We don't have to have a specific day to celebrate our mothers and fathers, but Mother's Day and Father's Day provide us with an opportunity to show our parents that we value them, just like Valentine's Day provides us with an opportunity to show our loved ones that we love them. Now into my substantive. A world without Valentine's Day is a world with more suffering and pain than necessary. The affirmative team has tried to paint this festival of love as a frivolous holiday which is overly commercialized and has no true meaning. But what would a world without Valentine's Day look like? To discover this, first we need to tell you how Valentine's Day is beneficial to all. there are 5 main benefits. The first benefit is that it's a celebration of love. Valentine's Day, as we know and celebrate it today, is a celebration of all love, not just the romantic love, but the love between friends and family. Valentine's Day is so much more than just a frivolous holiday, but a time for everyone, no matter their relationship status, to value what they have. Whether you are in a relationship or single, you can still celebrate love on Valentine's Day. Of increasing commonality is the use of Valentine's Day as a day of empowerment and self-love for people across the globe. The second benefit is showing others that you care. Valentine's Day gives us the gift of gratitude. The exchanges of gifts to those who you care about teaches us as a society to have gratitude for what we have and the people around us. We live in such a fast-paced society, and all too often do we get caught up in the 101 things to do on our to-do list that we forget to slow down and appreciate what we have. We are privileged to be alive, and Valentine's Day provides us with an opportunity to remember and share our gratitude and thanks for the people around us. The third benefit is feeling loved. You don't have to spend extravagant amounts of money to make someone feel loved. A simple card with a heartfelt message can make someone's day. The Affirmative team would like you to believe that Valentine's Day only applies to people in romantic relationships. However, whether you are in a romantic relationship or not, we all feel love. When we strive every day to feel love and give love, Valentine's Day is the day when love is all around you, and in turn you feel more loved and appreciated by the people you care about. The fourth benefit is seeing who and what truly matters. Valentine's Day is a time to put things in perspective. As everyone around you is showing kindness and love, it allows you to see the people and things that truly make a difference in your life. The final benefit is not taking things for granted. On Valentine's Day, you can see just how precious time and people are. This day gives us a time to truly appreciate the time we have with these people and show them how we love them in every way possible. If we were to live in a world without these 5 things, we would live in a world where no one feels loved and appreciated. We would live in a world where we wouldn't take time to slow down and share our feelings with one another. We would live in a world where we have no gratitude and perspective. We would live in a world where we don't celebrate love. Do not think of the Valentine's Day as the misconceptions presented by the Affirmative team. Valentine's Day is a celebration of love and happiness and a glimmer of hope for all society. Thus, we are proud to oppose.
Thank you. That was 5 minutes and 30 seconds. I would like to thank the first negative speaker and would like to bring forth the second affirmative speaker.
Valentine's Day, a day made to bring the people you love closer, a day meant to remind them that they still hold a peace within your heart, and yet in today's society, it is now a day that drives relationships apart, a day with unrealistic expectations, a day of stereotypes. With the waste of both money and resources that has been explored by our first speaker, as well as the commercialized version of love that it presents, it truly is impossible to understand why anyone would think that this convoluted holiday is still one worth celebrating. However, the story doesn't end there. To continue this thread of madness, I, the second speaker, will be delving into the past and present of this day, to prove that not only is this celebration one that is exclusive to the point of having detrimental effects in today's society, but one that has a history stained with blood. First, however, I would like to address some of the claims that have been made by the negative team. The negative team has painted Valentine's Day as a day of hope, a day of celebration of love. It claims that Valentine's Day is one of those tiny glimmers of hope that we need in our lives to live happy, fulfilled lives. But the Affirmative team would like to point out the fact that this doesn't necessarily mean having to give physical gifts to each other as Valentine's Day wants us to. As the negative team themselves said, we are in an incredibly fast-paced world, and we forget to slow down and appreciate the things we have. But what does physical gifts have to do with this? As a very famous person once said, time is money, and the most important gift one can give is time. The commercialization of Valentine's Day takes away from that. Instead, we should be striving to share our feelings with one another every single day and celebrating love every single day. In addition to that, the negative team's portrayal of Valentine's Day as a day that is supposed to encompass a celebration of all kinds of love, love, this simple four-letter word that is supposed to encompass all facets of a complicated concept. Yes, Valentine's Day is supposed to be about all kinds of love, but that is not how the media paints it. The advertisements that scream at us, the posters that demand our attention, they all paint one specific picture of a happy couple. The negative team may be living in an idealistic world where Valentine's Day is about all kinds of love, but that isn't the reality. The media is run by one thing: money. And you know what's one of the best ways to make money? To prey on the insecurities of those in love. Now onto my substantive. To understand the magnitude of just how destructive this holiday is, we must first address the dark origins of Valentine's Day itself. The holiday's very namesake, St. Valentine, was not a romantic at all. In fact, the day is not only named after him, but held in the day that he was beheaded by the Roman emperor at the time. Not exactly an image that fits with the lavish presents and proclamations of love that characterize the Valentine's Day of today. In fact, February 14th is not just the anniversary of the death of one St. Valentine, but several. All beheaded or murdered along with the rest of their family for speaking out against the pagan Romans in the name of Christianity. The martyrdom that then ensued was built upon medieval legends of St. Valentine performing Christian marriage rituals or passing notes between Christian lovers, all of which have no actual historical basis in 3rd century history. Apparently, medieval Christians at the time had no real concern for historical veracity. However, there are also roots of this holiday that go further back in time to ancient Rome, that, if anything, are even more horrifying than the story of St. Valentine's beheading. Over a course of 3 days between the 13th and 15th of February, the men of ancient Rome sacrificed a goat and a dog and then whipped women with the hides of these animals to promote fertility. This brutal feat was then followed by a matchmaking lottery where the names of women were drawn by men. This gruesome tradition was then combined with Valentine's Day when the saint was murdered on the same day. It was the Christian church's way of honoring their martyrdom. When faced with the truth of the origins of Valentine's Day, it's difficult to fit it with this stereotypical day of flowers and cupids. The truth may be horrifying and gory, but it is the truth. Valentine's Day is a day to celebrate the martyrdom of St. Valentine's actions that had no historically true connection to romance at all. Add that onto the Roman tradition of offering women up to be whipped by men, we have a day of violence and blood, not a day of romance. Certainly not a holiday worth celebrating at all when it is a holiday that sits upon a throne built of lies. Next, we can bring our focus onto the present-day reality of Valentine's Day. The unrealistic expectations and unhealthy relationship dynamics produced by Valentine's Day can be directly traced back to the media and commercialization of Valentine's Day. However, the detrimental effects of this holiday are not only felt by people in a relationship, but particularly by those who are not in a relationship or people who do not have someone to love and celebrate on this day. It seems that the ancient Roman traditions of coupling people together has carried through to the present day, as Valentine's Day seems to push this stereotype that in order to be happy, you must have a romantic partner, and you must spoil this person for that love to be valid at all. The constant presence of social media within our lives only works to further exacerbate the negative impacts of this expectation. The negative impacts of this expectation with its perfectly filtered pictures and sickeningly sweet captions. While some celebrate Valentine's Day, others are left out. According to the Australian census, single people households make up 24% of our population. That's almost 1 in 4 people who are left out of this entire celebration just because they aren't in a romantic relationship. That isn't even counting the single teenagers with the expectations of their peers and social media hanging heavy over them or divorcees. For a day that is supposed to be about the feeling that we all have, it's awfully exclusive. In fact, the far-reaching impacts of this exclusivity are shown in the way that Valentine's Day is included as its own topic in various mental health websites. The day itself is linked to depression, anxiety, and self-esteem issues. Why even bother celebrating a holiday that brings pain to not only those participating, but those excluded? To conclude, Valentine's Day is simply a holiday not worth celebrating. It pushes stereotypes onto not only those in relationships, but those out of them. It is built on a history filled with horrific details and historical inaccuracies. By not celebrating it, we are taking steps to truly becoming a more inclusive and, yes, loving world. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the second affirmative, and I would like to bring forth the second negative speaker.
Love is an increasingly important concept in today's society, in literature, in music, in media, and life. The word is used for friends, family, pets, and even everyday things, so much to the point where the word itself starts to lose meaning. If I say I love a pen, it means that there's something interesting about the pen, but not much else. Valentine's Day is the rare occasion when we can actually focus on the meaning of love, the value of our close relationships and connections, the value of being human. Today, as the negative team, we will be arguing why we should continue to celebrate Valentine's Day. I will be talking about how this festival promotes well-being, positivity, and gratitude, and I'll then move on to explain the economic effects of taking away Valentine's Day. But before I begin, I would like to rebut the opposition. The opposition tried to tell you that we should celebrate love every single day. However, the busy and bustling events of our society now simply don't cater for it. And she also tried to tell you about the dark origins of Valentine's Day. However, we as humans have moved on from that. How many people still remember the dark origins of Valentine's Day? Just like fairy tales, how Little Mermaid and Little Red Riding Hood may have been really dark to start with, but now they're part of a kid's enjoyment. The idealistic happy couple that social media presents, while yes, that may be true, however, these stereotypes need to be changed from young education and spread of awareness, and soon the festival itself will change as well. I will now move on to my substantive. February 14th is a day where we can show our gratitude and appreciation to those around us. On a normal day, it may be weird and never the right timing to tell a friend, I really appreciate your friendship and I love you so dearly. But on Valentine's Day, it would be considered a norm. Especially for so many older members of our society who constantly have to face loneliness because as humans age, it becomes harder and more tiring to always get up to meet our friends, much harder to engage in frequent shopping trips or theme park day trips with our friends and family. Slowly, it becomes easier to forget about our loved ones. Fortunately, when Valentine's Day decorations are seen hanging around, it reminds us once again about these important and valued members in our lives. A 2016 Stanford study showed how low social connections led to slower recovery from disease, higher susceptibility to anxiety and depression, and increased violence, while high social connections creates a positive feedback loop of social, emotional, and physical well-being. When someone spreads appreciation, it makes their companions feel positive about themselves. And a society with better emotional and mental health leads to less strain on the healthcare system and increased productivity because we are having more motivated and driven employees into the workforce. Now onto my second point. A small florist in a forgotten corner rarely receives business throughout the year. There may be an occasional young couple who want to celebrate their anniversary, or a young child who wants to surprise mother on her birthday with a small lily. But the main event this florist is waiting for is on the day of February the 14th. It's not just that this florist that is waiting for Valentine's Day. The family candy shop across the street and the deluxe handmade card shop on the next block are patiently waiting too. An ABC News article reports that about $2 billion are spent on flowers, $1.7 billion on candy, and $1 billion on cards each Valentine's Day. Many small shops and family businesses rely heavily on the sales from Valentine's Day. It is a widely known festival that many people of all ages celebrate, and a tradition that is passed on through generations, making it a consistent and reliable day for top sales. If small businesses are unable to generate enough revenue to cover all their overhead expenses and wages, their only option is to reduce the number of employees, if not to close the shop altogether. All these unfortunate individuals would lose their source of income that supports their own living and their family. This leads to unemployment stress, which is, once again, detrimental to their mental and emotional health. However, all these loss of jobs don't only severely affect these workers, it is also a hit to the economy, which is already impacted by the pandemic in all countries. One small business closing down may have little to no effect, but 10, 20? Before we decide to cut our Valentine's Day celebrations, why don't we just all take a brief moment to step into the shoes of the small florist in the forgotten corner? Therefore, adjudicator, audience, and opposition, there is no other festival that celebrates love and relationships like Valentine's Day. There is no other worldwide celebration that brings so much income for certain businesses, and there is no other day that can replace our Valentine's Day.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the second negative speaker, and I would like to bring forth the affirmative third speaker.
What's up? Okay, wait, hold up. Sorry. I'm allowed to time myself, yeah? Nah. Lit. Cool beans. Alright. Valentine's Day. A date that instills fear, loneliness, and unfounded expectations in all. Everybody here today has experienced the sheer loneliness of Valentine's Day. When your friends are out on dates receiving adorned chocolate boxes, colorful roses, or humongous teddy bears, and you're there in the corner, all alone, with no flowers, no chocolates, and no love. Is this the kind of world you want to live in? An annual reminder that you have nobody to love romantically or platonically, and to smother in red, shimmering hearts, constantly thinking that you need to be hit by Cupid's arrow to feel happiness? Not in this society, when you can be an independent person, woman, man, without nobody to love, because that is what we stand for today. We do not need materialistic love of Valentine's Day to make us feel valid. Our first speaker has discussed the commercialization of Valentine's Day and the extreme expectation it places on those in relationships. Our second speaker has addressed the horrific origins of this date and the modern day detriments to single people. Now I will describe the flaws of the opposition speeches. There are two prominent themes in our opposition's debate that I will address today. The so-called suffering that the world will experience without Valentine's Day and the benefits of Valentine's Day. These are clearly invalid reasons and are fatally flawed. First, I will combat the so-called suffering, and then I will counter the benefits of Valentine's Day. But first, I would like to clear up that saying Valentine's Day's origins should be ignored because it's so widely celebrated as such a loved holiday, then it's the same as saying that we should ignore history. Are we going to ignore the horrible origins of Australia Day just because it's so widely celebrated when so many people were segregated and discriminated against? No, we're not going to do that because that is not the accepting society that we live in today. The first speaker tried to convince you that a world without Valentine's Day is completely horrible. Why do you need to prove your love for your loved one on a single day unless you haven't been loving them every single day? It's kind of weird that you appreciate your friends or your loved ones on one day of the year and just forget about them for the rest of the year. Can one day and a few gifts encapsulate the love that you have forgotten to give your loved ones, that you have just abandoned them, but on one day you pop up and say, I love you, and everything will be fine? The five arguments the first speaker tried to say were the celebration of love, showing others that you care, and gratitude. Valentine's Day is a reminder to show gratitude to your loved ones. But do you really need to be reminded? It's such a materialistic way of showing love. And what's wrong with giving gifts on other days of the year? The third argument was feeling love. But I'm just saying, not everybody gets a simple card of chocolate on Valentine's Day, and that is not a great way to feel love. A fourth argument is seeing who and what truly matters. And it allows you to see who makes a difference in your life. How come Valentine's Day is the day that you finally realize who is important to you? It is such a materialistic way to give gifts, or to give a teddy bear, or to give a simple I love you to one of your friends or your loved ones. But why is it that this single day is used to just show your love? The last thing that first speaker said is not taking things for granted. But celebrities flaunt all their Valentine's gifts every single day. They plan their gifts and their actions, buying a Lamborghini, buying a mansion for views and clicks. And teenagers watching this will believe that is what love is, just materialistic ideals. The second speaker tried to say that Valentine's Day gives us benefits mentally and economically. Again, if you can't remember who you love on every other day, do you even love them? It is invalid to say that just because you receive a card or roses on one day, you'll feel loved or you are loving others. because it doesn't encapsulate the whole year or the whole life. Economically, florists getting money, that little florist on the corner of the street getting money, is oh so happy. But professions come and go. That's the reality of living in an ever-developing world. $2 billion boost in economy generates a whole lot of waste. All those candy wrappers, all the water wasted on roses, that's a lot of waste. Tradition of Valentine's Day also gives more pressure onto poor and unassuming people in relationships. The negative team, there is no other day that can replace Valentine's Day, they say. Well, what about every other day of the year where you can show love? The negative team have tried to convince you that Valentine's Day is beneficial to our society and has only positive impacts on one's mental health. Since the opposition's case rests on the fact that we will suffer without Valentine's Day and Valentine's Day has some sort of benefit to our life, so in the name of single people and those burdened by the detriments of this date, we know that society as a whole would prefer a world without Valentine's Day and would benefit from its absence. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the third speaker of the affirmative and would now like to close with the third negative speaker. Thank you.
Can I time myself?
Yeah, there's no problem.
Do I like start? Okay. Valentine's Day has continually been a deep-rooted tradition that has significant historical ties, economic impacts, and benefits for all the relevant stakeholders in this debate, as we have proven. Ultimately, today's debate comes down to the question of which side has an active harm and which side will have a positive impact specifically on the individual. Now, today I'll be addressing several themes that have arisen in this debate, including commercialization, environmental, benefits of the individual, benefits and impacts on the individual, the historical ties, and unrealistic expectations. Firstly, commercialization. The premise of the opposition argument rests on an unrealistic idea of love. In a highly mediated world, which both sides can agree on, that our world has continually developed in a highly mediated world, the modern definition of love has changed and is no longer exclusive to the historical definition of what love has always been. Take the rise of dating apps and online apps such as Tinder and Omegle, and this shows you how our definition of love has continually changed in the modern society. And secondly, the premise is flawed because the premise of their argument rests on the basis that Valentine's Day is limited to materialistic pursuits, but that enforces a cookie cutter of how love should be expressed, which is exactly what the opposition was attacking our side for. And this is a narrow lens through which Valentine's Day is celebrated. And their burden in this debate, the opposition's burden in this debate, is that they need to prove that there is an active harm on our side. However, we can prove to you that they haven't done so, and that there is actually an active harm on their side of this debate, which I'll be outlining right now. Even if Valentine's Day has been commercialized, not having this has adverse impacts on the economy. Firstly, shops that occupy this niche area will be impacted the most, and this impacts the bottom of the economy, people who are in the lower classes who are relying on these small shops to thrive. Firstly, this isn't the big corporate companies that are affected, as the opposition has tried to push. It isn't these corporate companies, it isn't our capitalist society, because they will still make money regardless of whether Valentine's Day still exists or not. But rather, it's the local flower shop on the corner, the old lady who's been excitedly preparing to bake handmade buttercream cupcakes for this one day. And what happens from this is that after these people who are deprived of their income, of their ability to succeed in this niche area, what happens is that they will become more reliant on welfare, and that causes more strain on the government to provide economic support for these people. And this takes away from the other impoverished people who are, this ultimately affects people at the bottom of the economy who are struggling the most. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge arguments made regarding the sense of individual and how this would actually influence the individual. What the opposition has forgotten to acknowledge is that the whole argument undermines the whole idea of not enforcing unrealistic expectations of love. They are undermining the language of one of the key languages of love, which is receiving gifts. There are 5 languages of love in total, and receiving gifts is one of them. By diminishing Valentine's Day to merely being a day where individuals can only receive gifts, and that the whole concept of receiving gifts is toxic, they have completely undermined a specific language of love, and in that way they have enforced another unrealistic expectation of love as being something that is not materialistic, even though there are many definitions as to how love can be expressed, and they have not proven what makes the language of love of receiving gifts any less valid than the language of love of receiving affirmations or physical contact. When their argument inherently enforces a cookie cutter mold of what genuine love looks like. However, it is not limited to materialistic pursuits. And in that way, they've undermined their own argument of unrealistic expectations. And this is an active harm that they have produced, and this is an active harm that occurs on their side. Furthermore, onto the concept of unrealistic expectations. Not only has the opposition pushed forward an agenda of unrealistic expectations, they also talked about the expectation between men and gender roles, including like the roles of relationships, the roles of men and women in relationships. The premise upon which their argument is based on is completely flawed. Their argument rests on another premise, that there is a cookie cutter as to how a relationship should look like. A relationship isn't merely defined to being a man and a woman. There are so many different relationships that are current and that occur in our modern world, and this celebration isn't limited to a relationship between a man and woman. It can be between friends, it can be between family, it can be between a man and man, or woman and woman. There are so many different types of relationships that occurred in our modern society. And furthermore, on the topic of the individual, this day is great for promoting those whose language of love is receiving gifts, and this helps to build emotional well-being, emotional health, and mental well-being, because it enforces this idea of feeling being loved and being accepted within society, and it helps to build these relationships. Now, furthermore, I'd like to acknowledge the whole concept of history. The underlying argument of the history argument isn't about how this has historical ties, but it's about how the our current society, the oppression of women and the promoting of wrong values is inherent in our society and is prominent in our society. But this isn't exclusive to this day. Regardless of whether this day exists or not, these values will still exist. And if we didn't have this day, there's actually an active harm, which I've already touched on, about regarding their economy and how this impacts on the people at the bottom of the economy who are struggling the most. And regardless of whether this day exists or not, these harmful stereotypes and the oppression of women will still exist. And this day, since it has moved on and progressed from its historical ties, no longer has ties to the oppression of women and the promoting of wrong values. And in fact, the mediated day and the promotion of this day as being more than just limited to a stereotypical man and woman relationship is actually improving the situation and helping to reduce the level of oppression of women within society. In conclusion, we have continuously proven to you the historical significance of Valentine's Day, how not celebrating Valentine's Day will cause a downfall of the economy of those who serve this niche area, and the significant impacts of celebrating Valentine's Day on all the relevant stakeholders of this debate. Not only have we effectively minimized their arguments, but we have shown you that there is an active harm on their side in their world. We have shown you how a world without Valentine's Day is not better than the status quo, and hence we are proud to oppose. Thank you.
So I'd like to thank all debaters for giving such a high quality debate. Me and Jenny will take some time to deliberate. So me and Jenny are back from our deliberation. So I think what we're going to do is that I will give my personal feedback, Jenny will give her personal feedback, and then we're going to go through how we decided the overall winner on the 3 points that we thought were brought up in the debate. So for my personal feedback, I just want to say that both me and Jenny thought that this was such a close debate, and that's why we took like 15 minutes to deliberate, because both of us were up lots of ideas and points. So I think on the us side overall, I think that for both sides overall, I think we had really good manner from everyone. I think everyone spoke really well. They brought up good ideas, and I feel like that should be applauded. And I also think that method was done pretty well in every speech. So I'm really happy with that. For AF, I think they made a good point on some of the more nuanced areas of the debate. So what I'm talking about is kind of taking into account the environmental impacts of giving gifts and buying gifts, as well as the economic impact. I think a really strong point on the app side, especially with the economic area, was like, you know, I think, I'm not sure if it was Daimi or your second speaker, but the idea of like, you have to buy gifts. It's poor shaming in the sense that like inherently it is materialistic because you have to buy something, and that excludes people who can't afford gifts. And I thought that was a really strong argument. However, I was actually looking forward to more of a kind of like, I think that was a good point, but I think another of like what it means to use Valentine's as a medium for expression of love was, I don't think our team kind of defined love well enough. I knew that there was like some, oh, but it's between friends and family. And I agree, but that wasn't well fleshed out enough for me to think it was like a strong point for the AFS team. I also think like towards the end somewhat, we got more of like, you know, and also at the very beginning, we got the idea of like, there's a lot of gender roles that play into Valentine's Day. And I think both sides took an approach of like, we can use Valentine's Day to kind of redefine what it means to love, to show love, and what it means to be in love. So obviously like turning away more heteronormative ideals, such as like having same-sex couples or having like more independence for women. But I think I wish like you talked more about the heteronormative aspect of Valentine's Day. Like I feel like there should have been an example of like, or in marketing and advertising, in a lot of commercialization of Valentine's Day, it is, you always see a man and a woman, and you always see a man buying the gift for the woman. That was briefly mentioned, but I don't think it was fully fleshed out enough. I think, Jenny, do you want to go for your kind of feedback?
Yeah. I think I overall think it was a really, really strong debate. I think you guys, in the end, like, I hope like the losing team isn't upset or anything, because it was really, really close. Like, I think both sides were missing like maybe like a few even if statements, kind of like if they had like better linked their two arguments together, or they had said, even if the team had said this, I do think that this is what's true now and this is what's going to be true later on in the future. Like, I think that those would have really bolstered a lot of your arguments. I think that they were really good and well thought out, but they could have been fleshed out a bit more by like justifying it alongside what the other team has said. I can go into specifics later on, like if you guys want feedback afterwards, but mostly I agree with what they said, with a lot of like just like how you guys went about it. I think you all touched on really good points. I think that both teams did miss like a few points like that they could have made. Like for example, like poor shaming, as we brought up, like it could have been further expanded on. And I just overall, I think there was a little bit of like fallacies on the negative side that could have been addressed, but they weren't a big deal. So yeah, I think overall everyone did really, really well. V, do you want to like announce the winners? We can like do a drum roll or something.
Yeah. So wait, should we do like by the 3 points, like the 3 points that we discussed? Because that's kind of how we went about
yeah,
deciding
so
the
you
debate.
can go by
So,
3 points. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So kind of the 3 points that kind of we thought that was brought up was, first of all, the premise of the debate. So the definition of love, what it means to show love, what it means to use Valentine's Day as a medium to express love for one another. That was kind of the premise of the debate. And both me and Jenny kind of agreed that negative team won on that premise of the debate, because unfortunately, like I think they fleshed out a bit more on like what it means to like kind of use, I think like the idea of like, I think it was third speaker or second speaker who said, okay, we use gifts as like a symbol of love, and therefore it's an unrealistic expectation to have this idea of non-materialistic love, because in our society we use gifts and physical materials to show love. And I think that was a really good point made on like what it means to show love, and I think that's where they won on the premise. However, for the other 2 points, which was mental health and kind of the economic side of the debate, I do think that AF won on those 2 points because with the mental health, I do think that their second, the 3 speakers on the AF side did kind of elaborate well on the idea of like single people feel excluded, single people feel excluded from this holiday, and therefore there is a lot of really unfortunate feelings and emotions and mental health issues that can be exacerbated through this holiday. And I think they fleshed that out really well in comparison to more of the whole like, oh, if we don't have social interaction on this holiday, then there's going to be pain and suffering. I think that's too much of a blanket statement, while as the app made a very fleshed out statement. And for the economic and environment argument, I do like to acknowledge that like the kind of niche side of these like small businesses will like fall on the negative side, saying like, oh, if these small businesses don't thrive, then their livelihoods are at stake. And whilst that is a point, I think there was a point about like capitalism and the idea of like corporate will still continue to thrive, and these smaller businesses aren't a part of the capitalist cycle, but they're contributing to a very capitalist-centric holiday. So then it's still kind of like it's kind of contradictory. But I can definitely see the point. However, I do believe that environmental point about like all of these gifts that we buy just simply go to waste, and that they're thrown away, and not only do they contribute to the environment, they're also like a waste of money. I think that was like a strong argument that kind of overshadowed the more niche business argument. So unfortunately, by half a point, we're going to give it to the team, and the best speaker on our team was Daimi Pham for third speaker. So
Sorry, but actually who won.
Well done, guys.
I like actually didn't hear it. Sorry.
Oh, who won?
My internet cut out. All I heard was Daimi Pham.
So I've won. I've won, and you're the best speaker.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
But it was
so close.
But it was by a very small margin.
Like half a point.
Like
I would say half a point.
It was really, really close.
You know why? Because
Yeah,
Neg team
half a
won on
point.
the premise
Like
of the
half a
debate.
point.
Like they won that point. And so then the AF team fleshed out more of their important arguments. So the two are very close. So don't feel discouraged. It was amazing. If you guys want like personal feedback from any of
It
us,
was really, really good.
just ask. We have notes, I'm pretty sure.